Hola chicos, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estáis? Are you ready for our next rule? But please, first of all, I would like you to promise me that you understand really very well the previous rule. It's very important because if not, I really recommend you to come back to the previous lesson and do the exercises once again to feel more comfortable with these verbs, because the next one will get you into trouble if you don't feel okay with the previous rule. So that's why, okay, if you promise me that you worked really well and you understood everything without problems and you conjugate verbs without problems, let's continue. If the previous lesson we spoke about el presente de indicativo and we worked with regular verbs, today we're going to work with the irregular verbs. And irregular verbs, these are the verbs which we conjugate as the regular, but also in the middle we have some beautiful changes, some more shifts of the vowels that will probably confuse us at the beginning. Okay, so let's have a look at our table. And we have 4 columns according to the root vowel. So when we need to identify how the regular verb is going to change, we need to look at the vowel in the root. For example, the first column we have the root vowel E, and the example is querer, quiero, quieres, quiere, queremos, queréis, quieren. Please pay attention that in nosotros, vosotros, we don't have changes. The next group, to this group, all the verbs with o as a root vowel will refer. For example, poder, puedo, puedes, puede, podemos, podéis, pueden. So you see, we change o to ue. The third group has also e. For example, pedir. Pedir, yo pido, tú pides, pide, pedimos, pedís, piden. Now, I suppose that you would like to ask me, and Tatiana, what is the difference between the third and the first group? Both of them have e as a root vowel. So how to distinguish between one, when we see, for example, a verb which has e, how to know if it refers to the third or to the first one? So, to the third group, there will be, in the third group, there will be just the verbs which finish with ir. Medir, pedir, servir. In the first group, all the rest. Okay? And the last one, and the easiest, because we have only one verb in the last group, it is jugar, juego, juegas, juega, jugamos, jugáis, juegan. So, it is the only one. Even in some grammar books, they don't distinguish this fourth group because we have only one verb which refers there. And of course, to the first 3 groups, we have many verbs. You will not find a complete chart, like the chart with all the verbs in Spanish. No. We will see some examples, and later you're going to feel this verb, it should refer to the first or to the second. Trust me, you will develop this feeling. Okay, so now let's continue. I told you that 95% of all the verbs belong to that chart. But what is happening to the rest 5%? We have some half irregular and super irregular verbs. So let's have a look at the half irregular verbs, grupo número 2, the second group. In this group, we have the verbs which have just one person irregular, and this is the first one. I will read it. I will read just the first one because other forms are absolutely regular and easy. Okay? Coger, cojo, conocer, conozco, dar, doy, hacer, hago, poner, pongo, traer, traigo, saber, sé, salir, salgo. In some situations, this change is due to the pronunciation, because sometimes if we don't make this change, the verb will be pronounced in some different way and we don't want it. So that's why we need to change some letter to make it sound in this way. Okay, so I suppose that this group is quite easy and it won't make any difficulty for you. But the next one is very interesting. The next one is the double irregular verb. What super irregular verb? Why is it double irregular or super irregular? Because each verb has double irregularity. First of all, they change according to the first chart, the chart of 95%. For example, the verb decir. Decir, it changes like pedir. You remember the third column. Pides, pide, pedimos, pedís, piden. But in addition to this, dices, dice, decimos, decís, dicen. In addition to this, we have the change in the first person. Digo. And we didn't have it in our first chart. So that's why to this group belong the verbs with double irregularity. And the last group, we have only one irregular verb here. It is the verb ir, because all the personal forms in this verb are really different from its infinitive. So that's why it is super irregular verb. I suppose that verbs ser y estar we also can call the irregular verbs, but I didn't put it in the chart because you already know them. Okay? So I understand that it can be really confusing and it's difficult, but at the moment what I want from you is not to learn them by heart. Don't worry. No. Just write down these tables, copy these tables in your copybook to have everything in one place, and when you do the exercise you just open the right page, look at the table and put the correct word in the exercise. Also, when in the exercise they ask you to conjugate the verb, what is the process, how you work with it? You take a verb. For example, let's say they ask you to conjugate the verb salir. Salir. So first, please look through the groups which are half irregular or super irregular, because in these groups we have few verbs in comparison with the first chart. So that's why it's easy to find a verb when it is inside these groups, half irregular or super irregular. El verbo salir, yes, it is one of them. But for example, if it is not, for example, let's take the verb servir. You look through the half irregular and super irregular, you don't find it, and now you can go to the first chart, to 95% of the verbs, and conjugate it as one of the columns. Servir, it's like pedir. Sirvo, sirve, sirve. So usually I recommend my students to work with the tables like this, okay? Because in this case you will not lose any verb. Okay, so let's try to do it. I understand it's confusing. Let's practice. Let's use all your tables, and I'm looking forward to our speaking session to practice, to help you to explain probably some moments that you didn't understand. Okay, so wish you good luck. Let's practice.